Hey guys, Ginger Locke from the Medic Mindset Podcast. How does one develop content that engages a learner in a podcast? First, I think it comes down to picking the right topic. I think we have to start there because you've got to have something to say. And I would start with thinking about, what do you know? Right? Because expertise is interesting. And as you think about what you know, think about the podcast listener's experience. The typical podcast listener is looking for a customized experience. They don't just turn on podcasts and just listen to whatever comes. They search up topics, right? And they're looking for a customized experience. And so the topics we pick are very often incredibly narrow topics, but very deep dives rather than comprehensive, right? So I think that's a gift to podcasters because that means you don't have to know all of cardiology, right? You can pick something small within that. Sometimes with picking topics, really less is more here, right? Do one thing really, really well. So maybe you pick a certain type of cardiac rhythm and only talk about that, right? So it's less daunting in terms of what you know because you can heavily research it and prepare in one kind of small deep dive area. Expertise is interesting. So do a topic that you know really, really well. You know many things. Some of the things you know, you are not excited about. And so we also have to consider, as podcast producers, what do we love? To engage an audience, you yourself have to be engaged with the content. They can tell. You're in their ears. They can hear you breathing. They can hear you sounding surprised, excited. They can hear you laughing so hard that you lose your breath. Right? So if you're not engaged, no way they'll be engaged. That engagement is also important for another reason, or your own personal engagement is important for another reason, and that is that will help it make it sustainable. That means you can be a podcaster for years, right? You won't just make one episode, you talked about something you didn't love, it felt like a lot of work, and you stop. We're hoping to cultivate podcasters who love it so much they'll do it for years and get really good at it. If you make an episode that you yourself wouldn't listen to, that's not the right topic. You don't love it. And that actually makes me think of one little editing hack. One thing that I do when editing Medic Mindset episodes is I will do a recording and listen to that raw audio in my car when I'm doing commuting on one day, and then the next day I'll try to remember what was in that recording, and because sometimes they're long, maybe an hour, 2 hours of recording. If I don't remember parts of it, that part gets edited out, because if it's not memorable to me, it must not be memorable, right? Because I made it. So find something you love. Find the thing that you're thinking about late at night, that you're talking about with your colleagues just because you want to, not because it's work. I know you know what you know. I know for sure you know what you love. There's a third thing that we've got to consider when picking a topic, and that is, does your department or does the EMS profession at large need that topic covered? Is there a need? Because if it's not needed, or perhaps it's already really well covered somewhere else, it might not be the best place to devote your time, right? It might be something that a listener wouldn't be as engaged in because they've already listened to someone else talk about that. That being said, the one little caveat about that, you're going to do it in your own style, and there are 8 billion people on Earth almost. And so even though another podcaster may have covered that topic, your listeners are going to enjoy and be engaged in your style. And the way you say it may be the first time that they really understood it, right? Or it held their attention. And so my point is, don't be dissuaded if other podcasters have already covered a topic that you're really hoping to cover, right? But I do think we need to think about what's needed within the profession. And maybe you're making a podcast for your department. Think about the specifics of what your department needs. These three things come together to help you figure out the topics that you'll pick. There is one thing that no matter how well you do those three things that can sabotage all of this and make the experience for the listener not engaging. And that is the audio quality. It's possible to be an expert, love what you're talking about, there's a demand for it, but if your audio quality is a mess, it will be a deal breaker. It'll sabotage your creation and the listener will turn it off. It'll be too distracting. And notice I said the word mess, right? I didn't say it needs to be perfect. I said it can't be a mess. So spend some time getting your audio quality good enough, right? I do some coaching for people that want to become podcasters, and I tell them, get your audio, the tech, good enough, and then once it's there, right? Once you've dialed in the audio quality, spend the remainder of your energy, your creative energy, on the content, because content is king. Content is king. Audio quality can sabotage. The fifth thing to think about, and it's the last, of the way to engage your podcast listeners, to engage a learner, is that over time, they'll keep coming back, they'll keep re-engaging your podcast if you've built trust with the listener. What do I mean by that? Two things. One, they enjoy it if they trust when they push that button that what they're going to hear sounds familiar. And so you hear, because familiar is soothing and feels good, and generally humans like what's familiar. We like a little novelty as well, but familiar, a place to relax, to come home to, is where learning can really happen. And so you hear a lot about, if you were to Google right now, how to make a podcast, I guarantee you on the list of things it would say is how important consistency is. And I used to think that just meant consistency in formatting and release dates. And it does mean those things, right? Your listeners want to know, like, does Ginger release every month or once a week? Does she have a kind of a consistent format? But it also means something very nuanced, and it means, are you a consistent you? Are you a consistent host or a consistent producer, right? When they turn on your podcast, are they going to hear the same person that they heard last time and build trust with you over time? And so my advice is, the only way to consistently be yourself or consistently create the same kind of content or topic or format over and over and over again is to authentically be yourself. If you are having to work too hard to be an expert in an area that you really don't love and it's kind of not your jam, or if you are if you've created a persona or a personality that actually doesn't match your natural one, that will wear you out and it won't be sustainable for you. And slowly the listeners will realize, like, what's going on here? They sound different. So what a challenge, right? What a challenge for you to authentically show yourself to the world. And that's one of the amazing things I've gotten out of podcasting is I've had professional growth and learned new skill sets, but it's also been incredibly personally rewarding and challenging to present myself authentically to listeners. Good luck to you guys. That's my Twitter handle at the top. My name's Ginger Locke. I'd love to talk to you about your podcast. Don't be shy to find me on social media, and let's talk podcasting. If you can't tell, it's actually my favorite topic.